What is innovation? According to dictionary.com, innovation is something new or different introduced. When in realms like the medical or technology field, there's always room to improve and innovate. If we're talking tech, we're constantly working towards higher resolution on screens, faster wireless connections, and everything like that. And medically, we've just achieved a great innovation in the form of a 95% successful vaccine for COVID-19. That's amazing. But when innovation is discussed in the world of art, things get complicated.
Can you fly that thing?
Not yet.
When you're working in technology, for example, there's a definite goal we work towards, like a higher rendering resolution. But art is interesting. Without a specific goal to work towards, innovation is extremely difficult to come by, as most people aren't trying to innovate, they're just trying to make stuff. One great example of this lack of new is cinema. In film, creating new ideas is especially difficult because of how much has already been done. Like everything else in the beginning, everything was new. People like Charlie Chaplin and Georges Méliès practically invented modern movie making. Before them, things like a close-up or even a story at all was considered groundbreaking.
Filmmakers usually kept their camera wide because they hadn't considered other options, or assuming that if they went close, it would confuse or disrupt the audience. But then G.A. Smith did this. He wanted to show us the cat eating in more detail.
Even after those two, even showing a toilet flushing was new. Things started to change recently, though. Great movies come out every single year, but nothing feels astonishingly new with a few possible exceptions. In every film, except for, the originals, you can most definitely trace back an inspiration to an older movie. Let's take the bullet time scene from The Matrix, for example. Not actually this scene, but another scene using the same technology. I didn't know what words to call it, so I just called it the bullet time. Cool. Bringing things back a bit, remember, we can always innovate things like technology when there's a specific goal in mind, and The Matrix definitely had one. This movie is an interesting middle ground of new because the technology of the slow motion rotating shots are definitely innovative technology-wise, and they've technically never been done before on screen. But the Wachowskis did take heavy influence. This style of fighting, used all throughout the movie, has been around since the age of Jackie Chan in the endless stream of Hong Kong's action films. Originating in the 1949 film following Wong Fei-hung, Kung Fu and the martial arts films have played a huge role in choreographing fights in modern action films. You see influence in superhero movies, spy films like the James Bond and Bourne Identity series, and of course, in The Matrix. Those bullet time shots are literally taken straight from movies like Way of the Dragon, just without the technology. The post-Trinity takes that the opening scene of The Matrix is literally just a direct reference, like, come on. But setting a couple of things aside, the Wachowskis' The Matrix was and still is a very influential film in its own way, inspiring others to create for years to come. Some people are more directly influenced by older films, and directing their own projects with the same DNA of older cinema. Take Tim Burton, for example. I, like many others, was completely dumbfounded when I first saw a Tim Burton film. For me, that was Batman. I was just blown away by just how original and unique everything about his movies were. The exaggerated shapes and accents and the production design, the lack of color even in his in-color films like Batman or The Nightmare Before Christmas, the just downright creepy undertones even in children's movies like Frankenweenie. But like many directors before him, Burton draws heavy from older works. I hate to say it, but I might even go as far to say that Burton directly rips off an entire era of film. German Expressionism started in the 1920s as the younger generation's way of rebelling and expressing the anguish Germany was in at the time. Alyssa Darza puts it best. The genre is broadly defined as the rejection of Western conventions and the depiction of reality that is widely distorted for emotional effect. If you press the play button on The Corpse's Bride on one TV and start The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari on another, it would look like back-to-back films from the same director, taking out some factors like age and the quality of the physical film itself. It's very clear that Burton takes loads full of inspiration from German Expressionism, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. He's able to take that style and write and direct films whose stories build on that visual style in a narrative form. Something like Beetlejuice is an exaggerated, dark, yet entertaining film that's narrative perfectly complements the visuals. So now I pose this question. What is innovation in art? Is it just personal style? Could it be how well certain stories and characters are developed and written? Are you allowed to take influence in order to make something truly revolutionary? Where's that line separating new from retold? These are complicated questions that I'm honestly not sure have answers. If you ask a room full of people these, I'm sure they would all have very different responses. I think innovation in film comes from a truly original idea, and right now, modern cinema is sapped of these. Nothing truly new and unique has come out for such a long time, for as long as I can remember, to be honest. Granted, that's not too long, but that's besides the point. But that's just me. What do you guys think? What is innovation?
Is it running?
Yes!